Alien girl whispered, "Touch me again, and you're dead," then asked why he stopped. The acrid tang of volcanic ash burned Kale's nostrils, scraping against the back of his throat like powdered metal. His ship, or what was left of the Stardust Drifter, was a smoking husk of twisted alloys and ruptured fuel cells scattered across jagged mineralized spires that glowed faintly with residual heat. He'd ejected maybe a click up, tumbling through a sky the color of dried blood and landing hard on something that felt like solidified lightning. His ribs screamed. His head felt like a drum solo was happening inside it. He pushed himself up, spitting dust and a little blood. Scavenging crash sites was his life. Ironic, his own was the latest gig. He'd been tracking a faint energy signature, maybe a forgotten cache of pre-collapse tech, when some kind of ground-based defense net snagged him like a fly. Now this hellscape of glowing rock and suffocating heat. He needed to find shelter, find water, find anything that didn't want him dead. That's when he saw her. She wasn't human. Not even close. Tall, maybe 7 feet. Lean and corded with muscle that seemed to shift and hum beneath segmented, naturally formed armor plates that covered her body. The plates weren't rigid metal. They moved, flowed almost, like living rock or cooled magma. Her skin, visible at the joints and face, was a deep obsidian black, etched with faint glowing lines that pulsed with the same light as the spires. Her eyes. They weren't eyes. They were twin points of searing, golden light, fixed on him with predatory focus. She held a spear, long and wickedly sharp, made of the same glowing mineral. She wasn't far, maybe 50 meters, moving with unnerving grace across the impossible terrain. He froze, every instinct screaming danger. All right, he mumbled, hands up slowly. No sudden moves. Just passing through. Ship trouble. You know how it is? His voice sounded ridiculously small in the vast, silent heat. The golden eyes narrowed. A low sound, like grinding rock, rumbled in her chest. Not language, not yet. Just a warning. A claim. He was on her territory, and she was the kind of territorial that ended with impalement. His smart-ass facade was already slipping, replaced by a cold nod of fear. He needed a plan, fast. And run wasn't a great option on a broken ankle, which he suspected he might have. His gaze darted around, searching for cover, for an escape route, for anything that wasn't her glowing, lethal presence. The heat seemed to intensify around her, shimmering in the air. She took a step, then another, deliberate, hunting. She didn't speak his language, not at first. She moved, closing the distance with terrifying speed. The spear held level. Kale scrambled back, heart hammering against his bruised ribs. Whoa! Hey! Hold on! He tripped over a chunk of fused mineral, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot up his leg. Definitely broken. Shit! He was screwed. She loomed over him, the tip of the spear inches from his chest. He could feel the heat radiating off her, a dry, intense warmth that seemed to vibrate in the air. Her glowing eyes searched his face, an unnerving, assessing gaze that felt less like looking at him and more like looking through him. He held his breath, waiting for the inevitable, but the spear didn't plunge. Instead, she shifted, squatting down beside him, still watching him with that intense light. She reached out a hand, covered in those shifting armor plates. He flinched. She stopped, a low growl rumbling again. Then slowly, she extended a finger towards his leg, tracing the outline of his torn flight suit near the probable break. It was the first touch, gentle, almost curious. Despite the earlier threat, his breath hitched. Easy, he croaked. That's busted. Her head tilted slightly. She didn't understand the words, but maybe the pain in his voice registered. Her finger pressed lightly against the injured spot. Pain flared, sharp and blinding. He cried out, jerking back. Her eyes flared brighter for a second. Then she stood, grabbing the front of his suit. You move. You are weak, damaged. You cannot flee the territory. Her voice was deep, resonant, and the words felt constructed, as if she'd learned them recently. maybe from his ship's data fragments, or previous unlucky visitors. Territory? Kale gasped, clutching his leg. Yeah, figured. Look, can you, help me? I'm not a threat, just a stupid scavenger who flew into the wrong zip code. She pulled him to his feet with surprising strength, ignoring his pained protest. He swayed, putting no weight on his bad leg. Weakness is not tolerated, she stated, her grip firm on his arm. But you are here. You are claimed by my hunt. The claimed must be tested. Tested? What the hell did that mean? He hobbled awkwardly, leaning heavily on her surprisingly stable form. This wasn't rescue. This was capture. And the test sounded a lot less like a written exam and more like a fight to the death. Great. Just what he needed. She half-dragged, half-carried him across the jagged landscape, moving with an effortless power that made his clumsy attempts to hop along feel pathetic. The air grew hotter the deeper they went, the glowing spires becoming more numerous, casting shifting, infernal light. This wasn't just territory, this was a different world beneath the surface, a realm of heat and rock and intense energy. His broken leg throbbed with every jarring step. He bit back groans of pain. He couldn't show weakness. Not to her, not when she kept talking about tests and claims. So, he wheezed, trying to keep up a semblance of his usual patter. This territory of yours, got any, amenities? Like a first aid kit? Or maybe just some water that isn't boiling? She glanced at him, her golden eyes unreadable. Water is earned. Survival is earned. Nothing is given in the arena depths. Arena depths. Oh hell. This was getting worse. Look, lady, my arena skills are limited to... Oh. Well, not dying in space junk explosions. I'm more of a sneak in, grab stuff, sneak out kind of guy. She stopped, turning to face him fully. The heat intensified, shimmering off her shifting armor plates. Sneak is cowardice. Strength is truth. You are claimed by strength. Mine. She tapped her chest with a armored finger. I am Zora, hunter of the Obsidian Peaks. Claimant of the intrusive weakling. Kale blinked. Intrusive weakling? Catchy. I'm Kale, annoyingly durable human. And your grip is kinda crushing my radius. Zara, her grip didn't lessen. Kale, the sound is weak. Your form is weak. Your leg is broken. Weak? She gestured to his leg. You cannot stand for the trial. You are incomplete. She seemed genuinely puzzled by his inability to participate immediately in whatever barbaric ritual she had planned. Look, a busted leg is usually a showstopper for physical trials back where I come from, he said, leaning heavily against a spire for support. Maybe we could reschedule, or do a written exam. I'm pretty good at spatial dynamics. She tilted her head again, those glowing eyes studying him. Spatial dynamics? Is this a weapon? A mating display? Oh God. Here it was. The awkward, sexual misunderstanding. No. Thinking about shapes and stuff, like where things are? She seemed to ponder this, a low hum vibrating in her chest. Thinking, the elders value thought. When it serves strength, you will be presented. They will assess your incompleteness, and my claim. The elders. Right. So she wasn't the only one here. Great. More glowing, judgmental aliens. He was beginning to suspect his day was not going to improve anytime soon. She started moving again, her grip on him firm. Come. The arena awaits the claimed. They reached a vast, cavernous space. The mineral spires here were colossal, forming natural columns around a central depression. The air vibrated with heat and a low, resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the rock itself. Perched on ledges carved into the spires were figures, shapes of glowing obsidian, their eyes burning like embers. The elders. They were larger than Zara, their armor plates thicker, their movements slower, more deliberate. They watched his entrance with silent, intense scrutiny. He felt like an insect under a magnifying glass. Zara pushed him gently, guiding him towards the center of the arena. His broken leg buckled, and he almost went down. He caught himself on a spire, gritting his teeth against the pain. Impressive audience, he muttered under his breath. Hope you guys do requests. I can juggle badly. A collective rumble came from the elders, a sound like distant thunder. Not amusement, judgment. Zagyara stepped forward, releasing him. He leaned heavily on the spire, trying to project something other than sheer agony. Elders, Zayara's voice was strong, commanding, resonating in the cavern. I present the intrusive weakling, claimed by my hunt in the territory above. He calls himself Kiel. A taller elder seated on the highest ledge spoke. His voice was deeper, older, like grinding mountains. Kaijera, hunter, you bring damage. The trial demands wholeness. The claim must be tested against strength, not broken fragility. Xiara turned to face the elders, her stance defiant. His intrusiveness triggered the peak sensors. His vessel shattered near the sacred scar. He carried different energies. She glanced back at Kale, a flicker of something in her golden eyes he couldn't decipher. Interest. Curiosity? He claimed spatial dynamics as a method of understanding. Not physical weapon, but mind weapon. The elders rumbled again. Mind weapon. They were definitely misinterpreting things. Yeah, look, it's not a weapon, it's just thinking. Kale tried to explain, but his voice was weak, ignored. The tall elder addressed him directly. Human, your vessel trespassed. You are bound by the laws of the arena. Every presence demands test. Every test demands dominance display. Your broken form complicates the ritual. Ritual. Right. This was all some kind of formal, probably violent ceremony. Complicate is my middle name, Kale said wryly. How about a test of TM tolerance? I'm doing pretty good on that front right now. The elder was unmoved. The ritual must proceed. Zexyara claims you. Her claim must be validated. You are incomplete for combat. The ritual test will be different. Ishara turned back to him, her glowing eyes holding his. The elders demand a display, since combat is denied. Noon. The display will be of Shachin's essence? What the hell was essence? He had a feeling he wasn't going to like the answer. The cavern air grew even warmer, thick with the scent of ozone and hot mineral. The light from the spires intensified, focusing on the center of the arena. On him, and on Zyra, the tall elder's voice echoed, formal and chilling. The ritual of essence claim. Ingzira, hunter of the obsidian peaks, presents her claimed. The human Kale, marked by weakness, yet present within the sacred space. The test of essence is not of combat, but of fundamental connection. The claimant must prove dominance not through strength of arm, but through resonance of self. Zara turned to him, her stance shifting from defiant warrior to something else, something poised. The glowing lines on her skin armor pulsed brighter. You will stand, Kale, she commanded, her voice lower, more intimate, yet still carrying authority. Lean on the spire if you must, but stand. He pushed off the rock, gritting his teeth as searing pain shot up his leg. He wobbled, sweat beading on his forehead, but he managed to stay upright, favoring the good leg. Standing, he gasped out. Your turn. What's essence? And how exactly do you test it? She took a step closer, her eyes locking onto his. The intensity of her gaze was unnerving, like a physical force. Essence is that which lies beneath the armor, the core heat, the resonance pulse. To claim essence is to touch the hidden fire, to dominate the inner glow. She raised a hand, the armored plates on her fingers shifting, becoming smoother, almost transparent. The ritual demands, listen, contact, deep contact, where armor is shed and core touches core. Oh no, this wasn't sounding good. Not deep contact with an alien warrior in a cavern full of glowing, judgmental rock people. Hold on, Kale said quickly. Are we talking like handshake deep? Or something else deep? A low hum rose from the elders, a sound of impatience. Exira ignored them. Her glowing eyes held his, and he saw a flicker of something unexpected, not just dominance, but a strange vulnerability, a tension in her posture. This ritual was important, and perhaps for her, difficult. Contact must be incomplete, she stated, her voice barely a whisper now, audible only to him over the cavern's hum. Body against body, heat against heat, until resonance is achieved or denied. She reached out, her semi-transparent hand hovering near his chest. He could feel the intense heat radiating from her, feel a strange pulling sensation in his own chest. It was like a magnet, drawing him towards her. This is getting awfully personal for a test, Cale said, trying to keep his voice steady despite his hammering heart and aching leg. Back home, we call this second base. Another potential misunderstanding. She tilted her head, her eyes still locked on his. Base? Is this another spatial dynamic? A position of attack? She took another step, closing the distance completely. Her hot, hard body pressed against his, the shifting armor surprisingly yielding against his chest. His breath hitched. The heat was overwhelming now, wrapping around him, sinking deep into his bones. Not to attack, Cale managed, trying to explain through the sudden rush of sensation. More like building something. Intimacy, connection. Her hand settled against his chest, right over his heart. He could feel the rapid, frantic beat beneath his ribs. Her touch was fire, but not burning. Not exactly. More like merging. The glowing lines on her skin armor pulsed in sync with his heartbeat. And then, the elders rumbled again. A command this time, Jara's golden eyes flared. The ritual demands penetration, she said, her voice dropping to a low growl that sent shivers down his spine. To merge the cores, to prove dominance, or submission. The air crackled with energy. The cavern hummed, the light from the spires intensifying, pulsing faster. Ixyara's body pressed against his, her heat overwhelming, consuming. Her hand on his chest felt like it was burning through his flight suit, finding his skin. Then something deeper, her grip tightened on his arm, anchoring him as his broken leg threatened to give out completely. Penetration? Cale choked out, his mind reeling. Listen, I don't think you understand what that means in my culture. Her golden eyes bored into his, radiating heat and unwavering intent. I understand the ritual, she stated, her voice a low rumble. To breach the outer layer, to claim the inner heat, to seed the resonance. Oh, she understood, just in the most terrifying, absolute, alien way possible. This wasn't a metaphor to her. The elders rumbled, their impatience a palpable force. Sakajara's gaze didn't waver from his. Her hand moved from his chest, sliding lower, tracing the lines of his torso. Her touch was molten fire, consuming his control, overriding the pain in his leg. His body reacted before his mind could process. A deep, instinctual response to the overwhelming heat and the intense, focused energy she directed at him. It wasn't just physical heat. It was something else. A psychic or energetic resonance that was starting to build within him, mirroring the pulse of the cavern, mirroring the pulsing glow of her armor. The ritual demands depth, she whispered, her head tilting, bringing her face closer. He could feel the intense heat radiating from her mouth. Her breath was like hot rock. Show me your core, Cale of the weak form. Let me see the fire you conceal. She leaned into him, pressing him back against the spire, her body molding to his. Her hands moved, exploring, claiming. The shifting armor plates felt impossibly hard, yet yielded just enough to press against his skin. He was trapped, helpless, utterly exposed under the gaze of the elders and the consuming heat of Sierra. His initial resistance was melting, dissolving in the face of her absolute dominance, the sheer intensity of her presence. This wasn't just sex. It was a fundamental act of alien power, a claim not just of body, but of essence. And his body, against his will, was responding, heat building in his loins, his breath coming in ragged gasps. She knew. She felt it. Her eyes narrowed, a predatory gleam in their golden depths. Ah, she breathed, a low, pleased sound. The fire ignites. The ritual proceeds. She initiated the penetration not in the way he understood it, but in a deeper, more fundamental sense. Her touch became intrusive, demanding, finding the hidden heat she spoke of. She used her body, her strength, her heat, and that strange, pulsing energy to break him open, to force a connection that went beyond the physical. It was overwhelming, terrifying, and against his will, intensely, brutally arousing. He cried out, part pain, part surrender, as she drove the connection deeper, triggering a reaction in him that felt less like an orgasm and more like an uncontrolled energy discharge. The discharge was like a shockwave, originating deep within him and radiating outwards, merging with Sarah's pulsing heat and the cavern's hum. It was involuntary, overwhelming, and it left him shaking, gasping for air, leaning heavily against the spire. Ziara pulled back slightly, her chest heaving, the glowing lines on her armor pulsing violently. Her golden eyes were wide, something akin to surprise mixed with fierce triumph in their depths. The elders rumbled, louder this time, a sound of acknowledgement, perhaps approval. Resonance achieved, Agera stated, her voice thick with exertion. The core is touched, the fire is claimed. She looked at him, really looked at him, and the raw, exposed vulnerability in his eyes seemed to captivate her. Then she reached out, her sharp, armored fingers tracing a line across his chest, just above his heart. Where she touched, the skin tingled, then burned, not with heat, but with a strange, energetic marking. It was a physical manifestation of the resonance of the forced connection. He felt it sink into his skin, settling deep within his muscle and bone. The mark of essence, she said, her voice softer now, but still commanding. Proof of the claim. You are bound, Kale, by the ritual, by the resonance, by my will. Bound, marked? This was way more than a one-night stand in a creepy glowing cave. This was the permanent and public, under the eyes of her entire scary rock people council. His mind was a jumble of shock, residual arousal, pain, and dawning horror. What the hell had just happened? He had stumbled into a trap, been captured, subjected to some kind of alien dominance ritual that involved forced
essence penetration. And now he was marked and apparently bound to her. Bound,
he whispered, his voice hoarse. What does bound mean? Like, forever? Does this come with benefits? Dental plan? She didn't answer, her gaze fixed on the mark she'd left on his chest. It wasn't visible to him, but he could feel its presence, a warm, vibrating energy under his skin. The ritual changes things, Ira said, turning back to face the elders. Her posture had shifted again, from focused predator to something possessive. The intrusive weakling is now the claimed of Zira, hunter of the Obsidian Peaks. The essence bond is forged. The trial is complete. The elders rumbled amongst themselves, their glowing eyes shifting between Syra and Kale. Their energy felt different now, less purely judgmental, more calculating. One of the elders spoke, the tall one from before. The bond mark is seen, Syra, the resonance confirmed. But the claim is on an outsider, a Kale human. This disrupts the bloodlines, the ancient ways. Disrupts the bloodlines? Oh great, he hadn't just gotten himself marked. He'd apparently caused a major cultural crisis. And Ciara, his captor-dominator marker, was now defending her claim on him against her own people. His situation had just gone from surviving a crash to interspecies political hot potato. The elder's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threat. Disrupts the bloodlines. Zyra's glowing eyes flared, her body tensing, the armor plates shifting and humming with suppressed energy. The ritual of essence claim is ancient, Elder Cathar, she retorted, her voice ringing through the cavern. Its laws are clear. Resonance achieved. Mark delivered. The claim is absolute. Cathar, the tall elder, remained impassive. Absolute, within the lines of pure Verun. You have bonded with an outsider, Ziara, one who carries no ancestral heat signatures, no shared lineage. The consequences are uncharted. Another elder spoke, a female, her voice sharp and cold. He is weak form, Broken. Can he contribute to the bloodlines? Can he stand against the deep crawlers when they stir? Deep crawlers? Kale's head snapped up. New threat detected. Just when he thought it couldn't get worse, Gara straightened to her full height, radiating pure defiance. He is mine. His weakness is a challenge I accept, and his spatial dynamics suggest a different form of strength. A cunning the arena lacks. She glanced at Kale, a strange mixture of proprietary pride and speculative interest in her gaze. She was actually trying to sell him to her elders, using his sarcastic blather about spatial dynamics. Yeah, I'm pretty good at thinking outside the box, Kale offered weakly, pushing himself off the spire. The mark on his chest throbbed, a constant reminder of the bizarre bond. Also, I can fix stuff. Ships? Maybe your glowy rock things? I'm a scavenger. It's what I do. The elders seemed unimpressed. Kanthar focused his glowing eyes on Kale. Fixing is not dominance. Cunning is not strength. The bloodlines demand propagation of the strong. An outsider bond weakens the future. The temperature in the caverns seemed to drop, the air growing heavy, not with heat, but with tension. Azura stepped in front of Kale, shielding him slightly with her body. Then perhaps, she said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl, the strength of this bond should be tested against a shared threat. If the Kale human can survive the deep crawlers at my side, proving his worth in action, will his essence claim be undeniable? A ripple went through the elders. A test of survival against the deep crawlers. That sounded like a death sentence. But it was also an opportunity for Zara to validate her claim. For Kyle to maybe, just maybe, not get executed by glowing rock aliens. Kakir considered this a trial by shared fire, he rumbled. If the outsider falls, the bond is void. If he survives, his presence within the lines must be reevaluated. Reevaluated? That wasn't a guarantee, but it was better than executed now. Zara nodded, a fierce determination on her face. So be it. Kale human. She turned to him, her glowing eyes meeting his. You are claimed, and now, you will fight at my side, against the crawlers, to prove your worth. She grabbed his arm again, her grip tight and possessive. Do not fail me, Kale. The bond demands survival. He looked at her, at the fierce alien warrior who had just claimed him through a bizarre ritual and was now dragging him off to fight subterranean monsters to justify her actions to her elders. Right, he said, trying for a sarcastic edge, but mostly just sounding tired and terrified. Bond demands survival. Got it? Just one question. Tech. What exactly are deep crawlers? And how many of them are there? They moved towards a narrow fissure in the cavern wall, away from the elders. The air here was thick with a different smell, earthy and metallic, underscored by a faint, chitinous scent that sent a primal chill down Kale's spine. Zira moved with purpose, her spear held ready. Deep crawlers, she explained, her voice low, a hunter's tone, are the residue, creatures of the rock depths, stirred by the arena's heat and the tremors of the core. They sense intruders. They crave energy signatures, like his ship's crash, or the resonance from the ritual. Great. He was basically a glowing dinner bell. So, they're attracted to me? Kale asked, carefully stepping around a sharp mineral outcropping. His leg protested with every movement. But the adrenaline and the strange energy from the mark helped. Wonderful. Any other qualities I should know about? Like, do they breathe fire? Have personal shields? A crippling fear of sarcasm? Zyra gave him a sharp look. They are many. They are armored. Their claws tear rock. Their teeth consume energy. Sarcasm is unknown to them. She paused, then added, weakness is a scent they follow. He winced. His broken leg was practically broadcasting weakness in big neon letters. Right. Okay. So, armored, sharp, hungry, lots of them. And they like injured snacks, peachy. He adjusted his grip on a jagged mineral shard he'd picked up as a makeshift weapon, pathetic, compared to her glowing spear. Look, Sierra, he said, his tone serious for a moment. My leg is busted. I'm not going to be much help in a stand-up fight, but I can think, and I can distract. Maybe if I draw their attention. You can hit them where it hurts? She studied him for a moment, her golden eyes assessing. You offer yourself as bait? A weakling's tactic. It's not weakness if it works, Kale countered. It's strategy. Spatial dynamics, remember? Thinking about where things are. And where they shouldn't be, like several angry rock monsters. A faint hum of consideration emanated from her, a peculiar form of dominance, she mused. To control the flow of the hunt through calculated exposure. Okay, she was buying it, or at least finding his oddness intriguing. Calculated is my middle name, Kale lied smoothly. So, plan? She nodded, a rare, almost imperceptible gesture of agreement. We enter the tunnels. You make noise. Draw their focus to your spatial dynamic vulnerabilities. I will eliminate from the shadows. This was officially the worst date ever. But at least they had a plan. And for the first time since landing in this hellhole, he felt a flicker of something besides fear and pain. A strange sense of purpose, tied inextricably to the glowing alien warrior who had claimed him. The mark on his chest vibrated, a silent promise and a heavy burden. They descended into the fissure. The air grew thicker, heavier, and the light from the arena depths faded above, leaving them in near total darkness. Only Sierra's glowing lines and eyes provided any illumination, casting long, shifting shadows that danced like phantoms on the rough rock walls. The path was uneven, treacherous, forcing Kale to rely heavily on his one good leg and Sierra's steadying presence. The silence was broken only by their footsteps and the faint, distant scrabbling sounds from deeper within the tunnels. The sounds of the crawlers. He could feel them now, a low vibration in the rock. A sense of many hard bodies moving underground. Getting crowded, Kale whispered, his voice tight. He held the mineral shard like a dagger, ready for a fight he knew he couldn't win alone. Sierra stopped, pressing herself back against the wall, blending into the shadows. They are close, she breathed, her voice a low rumble. She pointed ahead. A faint glow emanated from around the next bend. Not the steady light of the spires, but something dimmer, more scattered. Their eyes, she explained. They hunt by heat and energy signature. Make your noise, Kale, human. Draw them. He swallowed hard. Okay. Showtime. All right. You ugly rock roaches, he yelled, his voice cracking slightly. Come and get it. Fresh human snack, direct from, well, not Earth, obviously, but still tasty, probably. He punctuated his taunt by banging the mineral shard against the wall. Clang, clang. The scrabbling sounds intensified immediately, growing louder, closer, multiple sources. Heading his way, Sierra gave him a fleeting, fierce look of approval. Then she was gone, melting into the darkness. He was alone, standing in a narrow tunnel, with a broken leg and a rock chip, facing down unknown horrors attracted by his distress signal and alien sex mark. Right. Okay. Deep breaths, he muttered to himself. Just gotta be loud, and try not to get eaten. The glowing eyes appeared around the bend. Several pairs, low to the ground. They looked like insects, gigantic, armored beetles with too many legs and glowing mandibles. They scuttled forward, clicking and hissing, drawn by his sound and his radiating heat. He felt a surge of pure terror, but he stood his ground, yelling insults, waving his shard. Hey, over here. Yeah, you with the glowing butt? Come on. The lead crawler surged forward. Just as it reached him, Sierra struck. She dropped from the ceiling with silent speed, spear flash. A sickening crunch, a high-pitched shriek, and the crawler crumpled, its glowing eyes fading. But more were coming. She was a whirlwind of deadly efficiency, but there were too many. Pouring into the narrow tunnel, one veered towards Kale, its glowing eyes fixing on his exposed leg. He braced himself, bringing up the shard, knowing it wouldn't be enough. The deep crawler lunged, its glowing mandibles clicking inches from Kale's face. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the impact, for the tearing claws and crushing weight, but the blow never landed. Instead, there was a sudden, intense burst of heat, a high-pitched shriek of pain, and a heavy thud as something large and armored hit the ground beside him. He opened his eyes. Sarah stood over the dying crawler, her spear embedded in its armored head. She pulled it free with a fluid motion, her chest heaving. More crawlers swarmed, forced into the narrow space. Zira fought with brutal efficiency, her movements a blur of glowing armor and flashing spear. But even she was being overwhelmed. They were too numerous, their chitinous bodies forming a wall of snapping mandibles and tearing claws. One got past her, scuttling towards Kel. He couldn't dodge fast enough. It slammed into his injured leg. Pain exploded, sending him sprawling. The crawler climbed onto his chest, its weight crushing, its glowing eyes inches from his. He could feel its hot, putrid breath on his face. He clawed at it with his free hand, but its armor was too thick. He was going to die here, eaten by a giant bug. A wave of despair washed over him. And then, a different kind of heat surged through him. Originating from the mark on his chest, it wasn't the external heat of the cavern, or Xiara, but an internal burning, a fierce, protective instinct that flared to life. He focused on the crawler not just with his eyes, but with that inner heat, that weird connection forged by the ritual. He didn't know what he was doing, but he sent a surge of energy of pure defiance through the mark towards the creature on his chest. The crawler shrieked, a sound that was more pain than aggression, and recoiled, scrambling back. It didn't retreat, but it hesitated, shaking its head, as if struck by an invisible force. Xiara saw it, saw the crawler flinch away from him, saw the faint pulse of light emanating from his chest. Her golden eyes widened for a fraction of a second, a flicker of understanding passing between them. His spatial dynamics, his essence, whatever it was, had done something. It had bought them a moment. Now, he yelled, pointing past the momentarily confused crawler towards a smaller side tunnel. That way. Xiara didn't hesitate. She drove her spear through the distracted crawler, then grabbed Kale, hauling him roughly to his feet. Ignoring his pained cry, she half carried him, half dragged him towards the side tunnel. Fighting their way through the remaining crawlers, he leaned against her, focusing his remaining energy on keeping that strange internal heat flowing, pushing it outwards, creating a small pocket of deterrence around them. It wasn't a weapon, not like her spear, but it seemed to confuse and repel the crawlers, giving Xiara the edge she needed to fight their way free. They burst out of the narrow tunnels and into a smaller, less intense cavern. The air was cooler here, though still warm by human standards. No glowing spires, just dim, ambient light reflecting off mineral deposits. The sounds of the crawlers faded behind them. Left to the main tunnels, they collapsed against a rock wall, both of them heaving, covered in dust, sweat, and the ichor of dead crawlers. Kyra let go of him, sliding down the wall, her glowing lines dimming slightly. Kale slumped beside her, his legs screaming, his chest burning from the mark. He was exhausted, battered, but alive. Against all odds. Well, Kale gasped, wiping sweat and grime from his face. That was a bonding experience. Literally, I guess. Sarah didn't respond immediately. She sat in silence, catching her breath, her eyes scanning the cavern, always alert. Then, she looked at him, really looked at him. Her expression was unreadable, but the intense focus in her golden eyes was back. You, yet repelled them, she stated, her voice low, rough with exertion. With your China heat, your essence. Kale shrugged, wincing. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. Just survival instinct, I guess. Pushing back, she reached out, her armored fingers tracing the outline of the mark on his chest again. This time, the touch wasn't demanding, but inquisitive. It is the bond, she murmured, forged by the ritual, activated by shared threat. Your essence responded to mine. It is a form of strength it did not anticipate. She looked away, staring into the dimness. The elders, they will be surprised. They sought to sever the bond through trial by fire. Instead, the fire has forged it stronger. He felt a strange sense of satisfaction, mixed with dread. They had survived, proven the weird bond. But what did that mean for his future? Stuck here? With her? So, what happens now? Kale asked. Do we go back and tell the elders? Surprise, your interspecies bond experiment worked? She was silent for a long moment. Then, she turned back to him. Her glowing eyes meeting his. The predatory glint was back, but softened now, mixed with something new. Something possessive and complex. You are claimed, she stated, reiterating the fact, but the meaning felt different now. Less like a hunting prize, more like property. Yes, but valuable property, worth defending. You have survived my hunt. You have endured the ritual. You have fought at my side against the crawlers, proving your peculiar strength. She pushed herself up, moving with renewed energy despite her exhaustion. The elders demanded proof. We have provided it. Come, Kale human. It is time to face the consequences of the bond. Together. Together. The word felt heavy, loaded. It wasn't freedom, not by a long shot. But it wasn't death, either. And facing it with her, the dominant, dangerous, utterly alien woman who had claimed him, felt the right, necessary. He pushed himself up, his leg protesting fiercely. All right, he said, leaning on the rock wall. Together it is. Just promise me one thing, said Yara. She stopped, turning back to him, her glowing eyes questioning. What is it? Claimed Kale human. No more weird penetration rituals without explaining them first, he said, a flicker of his old sarcasm returning. Deal? She considered this. A faint hum vibrating in her chest, then a low, rumbling sound that might have been an alien approximation of amusement escaped her. The bond requires understanding, she conceded. Perhaps explanation can follow the experience. Not exactly a yes, but better than silence his weakness. He limped towards her, ready to face the elders, the consequences, and whatever bizarre future awaited him as the claimed of Zyara, hunter of the obsidian peaks. They returned to the arena depths. The elders were still there, silent observers on their ledges. The cavern was clean, the crawler bodies removed, the air no longer thick with their scent. Only the low hum of the rock and the glow of the spires remained. Zyara strode towards the center of the arena, Kale limping beside her, leaning heavily on her arm. The moment they entered the main space, all glowing eyes fixed on them. Kale could feel the intensity of their scrutiny, could feel the low thrum of their energy assessing him, assessing the mark pulsing faintly on his chest. Axura stopped in the center, turning to face the highest ledge, where Elder Katar sat. She released Kale's arm, but remained close, a silent shield. Elders, Zyara's voice resonated, strong and clear. We return from the deep tunnels. The trial of shared fire is complete. Katar's glowing eyes seemed to pierce through Kyle. The sense of the tunnels are upon you, Hunter, and the faint, lingering essence of the crawlers. Did the outsider endure? Zyara drew herself up, her posture radiating pride and possessiveness. He endured. More than endure. His weakness was a shield, his spatial dynamics a weapon of distraction. His essence, bonded to mind by the ritual, repelled the crawlers when their teeth found his flesh. She gestured towards Kale, indicating the faint glow on his chest. The mark pulsed, the bond held. The trial forged strength where none was expected. A murmur went through the elders. They turned their gazes to Kale, their scrutiny intensifying. He stood straighter, ignoring the pain in his leg, meeting their stares with as much defiance as he could muster. He was Kale, goddammit. Annoyingly durable human. He'd survived a crash, a creepy ritual, and a bug invasion. He wasn't going to cower now. Katar regarded him for a long moment. A strange strength, he rumbled, born of damage and outsider presence. The bond is validated by fire, yet the bloodlines remain disrupted. He looked at Zyara, Your claim is proven, Hunter, but the outsider must have a place, a role within the lines. His presence is a variable. Variables must be controlled or integrated. Integrated? Kyle shifted uneasily. That sounded invasive. Axiara stepped forward, her stance bold. He will be integrated, Elder. He is claimed by me. My strength will guide his strange cunning will serve the hunt. He will be my consort claim, bound to my position, his future tied to mine. Consort claim. Kale's eyes widened. She was claiming him as her mate? Her consort? In front of everyone? He hadn't just survived. He'd apparently landed himself in an alien marriage contract, possibly with political ramifications he couldn't even begin to understand. Cathar's eyes narrowed. Consort? The ritual of essence claim is not the ritual of progenitor bonding, Zaira. It is a claim of will, not lineage. Yara met his gaze without flinching. It is both, Elder. The resonance bond is a form of mating, ancient and fundamental. He is marked. He is claimed. He is mine. And he will stand with me. If the bloodlines are disrupted, then they will adapt to incorporate the strength he brings, or be challenged by my refusal to yield him. It was a bold declaration, a challenge wrapped in a claim. She was using their own rituals, her own dominance, to redefine his place, to protect him by binding him completely to herself. Kale felt a complex swirl of emotions, shock, confusion, relief, and a strange, fierce protectiveness for the alien warrior who had just publicly staked her future on him. He might be broken, a weakling in their eyes, but he was her weakling, her consort claim. He met Sarah's gaze. Her golden eyes were burning with a fierce intensity, a silent question. Was he with her? Was he ready to face this bizarre new reality at her side? He managed a small, shaky grin. Consort claim, he repeated softly, has a certain ring to it. All right, Sarah. Looks like I'm not going anywhere. You claimed me. Now you're stuck with me, and my bad leg, and my spatial dynamics. Her lips, thin and dark against her obsidian skin, curved slightly, a hint of alien triumph. The elders rumbled, not in approval, but in resignation. The bond, forged in fire and claimed in defiance, was now undeniable. Kale, the smart-ass scavenger, had crashed into an alien world and ended up claimed as a consort by a dominant warrior, bound by a bizarre ritual and facing a future tied to her political struggles. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but looking at Ziara, at the fierce light in her eyes, maybe, just maybe, he could survive it. Maybe he could even find something more in this strange, dangerous bond. The story of Kale and Zakshara, the human consort and the Varun hunter, was just beginning.